Listen to the audiobook The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe, Level B1, Oxford Reading University.
Recently I learned that Fortunato had laughed at the name of my family, Montresor. Previously he had hurt me many times, and I had suffered silently. But this time, he had crossed the line. My family was old and noble, and I was very proud of it. So I was determined to have my revenge. But in order to do that properly, I had to be very careful. Of course, I couldn't risk my safety. After all, what's the point of my revenge if I get punished for it? Also, it was very important for me that Fortunato knew why he had to die, and that he was going to die at my hand. Up until that day, I had pretended to be his best friend. I had treated him very kindly, and made sure he didn't doubt me for a second. I smiled at him pleasantly whenever he looked at me. Of course, actually, I was smiling at the thought of my revenge, but Fortunato didn't know it. Fortunato was a very powerful, well-respected man. However, he had one weakness: alcohol. Indeed, he drank too much, and proudly claimed to be the greatest wine expert known worldwide. I knew something about old wines as well. Therefore, I bought the finest one I could find. This wine will give me my revenge, I thought. One night in the spring, I met my enemy on the street. He was alone and very drunk, but I didn't complain. So much the better for me, I thought, and gave him an unnatural smile. "My friend," I said cheerfully, and put my arm on his shoulder. "I was just thinking of you. You see, I've bought some wine from a stranger. He convinced me that it was Amontillado, the finest Spanish wine." "What?" he cried in surprise. "It's impossible." "Yes, I think so too," I replied. "It is very likely that he lied to me. Anyway, I must try the wine to know for sure, though I don't know wines as well as you do." "Say no more," he shouted in excitement and took me by the arm. "It'll be my pleasure to help you." "But aren't you unwell?" I asked worriedly. "Have you recovered from your cold already?" "No, no, my friend. You are very kind, but I must refuse. The wine is stored in the underground vaults of my house. It's very cold and wet there. We can't risk your health. Perhaps I should ask Lucrece." "Seriously?" laughed Fortunato. "That clown? He can hardly tell wine from juice. No, I don't care about the cold. Amontillado? We're going to your vaults right now. End of discussion." With these words, he took me by the arm and pulled me toward my house. It was a great stone palace where my family had lived for generations. There was no one at home. I had warned the servants that I wasn't going to return till morning, and ordered them to care for the place while I was out. But of course, all of them left as soon as I closed the door behind me. We entered the palace, and I took 2 lights from the walls. I handed one of them to Fortunato, and led him down narrow hallways and under the ground, to the vaults of the Montresor family. For centuries, it had been the resting place of our dead relatives. But also, we kept our finest wines there, because the air under the ground was perfectly cool for it. The bones of the dead lay in a mess along the walls. A row of old bottles stood among them. I picked one of them up, hit it against the wall to break off its neck, and handed it to Fortunato. "Here, drink this," I said politely. "It will keep you warm." The man took the bottle and smiled at me. "I drink to the dead who lie buried here," he announced. "And I drink to your long life," I said, and drank the wine too. "Indeed, a very fine wine. But where is the Amontillado?" asked Fortunato. "Follow me. We're almost there," I said. Soon we reached the part of the vaults that lay under the river. Cold drops of water fell upon our heads from above. "Your vaults are quite impressive," commented Fortunato. "It seems that they have no end." "The Montresors are a great family," I replied, smiling. "But don't worry. We are very close now." Then I stopped sharply and turned to him. "My friend, you're shaking from the cold. Let's head back before it's too late. I don't want you to fall ill again." "It's nothing," he said. "Just give me some more of your wine and let's move on." I picked another bottle up from among the pale bones and handed it to Fortunato. He drank it down and threw the emptied bottle over his shoulder. Finally, we reached the end of the hallway. The air there was old, heavy, and painful to breathe. One of the walls had a little door in the center. It led into a little dark room about 1 meter wide and 2 meters high. "Go in," I told Fortunato. "The Amontillado is there." Fortunato went on carefully. Soon he faced the back wall. There were 2 heavy iron rings in that wall, with a chain hanging from one of them and a lock from the other. For a moment, Fortunato just stood there silently, wondering. That moment was more than enough for me to press him against the wall and close the lock around his waist. "Please raise your hand, Fortunato," I told him. "Can you feel the cold water from the river pouring down the wall? Surely it's very dangerous for your poor health. I ask you once more, don't you want to go back? No? All right. Then I must leave you." "But what about the Amontillado?" he asked confusedly. "Ah, yes, the Amontillado." I bent down to the ground to search among the bones. Finally, I found the stones that I had taken down from the wall earlier. I picked them up one by one and started building up the entrance to the room where Fortunato stood, shaking all over, like a frightened child. "Montresor!" he cried. "What are you doing?" He pulled at the chain wildly, trying to break free. Its loud ringing rolled down the hallways and echoed against the stone walls. "It's very funny, Montresor, I admit it," said Fortunato. "I'm sure we'll laugh about it many times as we drink wine together." "Yes, as we drink our Amontillado," I replied. "It's getting pretty late," he went on. "We should head back." "Of course," I said calmly, and picked up the last stone from the ground. "Please, Montresor, for the love of God, release me." "Indeed, for the love of God," I repeated after him. I stood there and waited, but no answer came. "Fortunato," I called. "Fortunato." All I heard was a very soft, low cry of horror. I hurried to fix the last stone into its position. Then I put the old bones back where they had lain and left. It's been half a century already, and no human hand has bothered them. May he rest in peace.
Send this story to a friend who likes free audiobooks. And now, check out another awesome video.